Bonjour.
Hello. Okay, it's working. That's fine. So the speakers have stopped doing their selfies, so maybe we can start. So I'm Elisabeth Laville. I'm in charge of a business that's called Utopie and specializes on sustainable development and also in the territories too. Very happy to moderate this debate, which on the topic which really is dear to my heart, the way that we have in our sustainable approach, we've gone from an approach aiming at reducing the negative impact of businesses with the idea of highlighting the positive contributions of businesses in order to have a positive impact, i.e. from less bad to more good. So there are 4 speakers who are really experts on their topic. If you don't mind, I'll just give you an idea of this roundtable and why we wanted to talk about this in particular. After this, I'll give them the floor. So we have more or less 2 hours for this session, and we'll be presenting, you'll be hearing them, so I've got plenty of questions. I'm sure you have as well, so we'll try to be consistent. So what did we want to do this session? We don't hear her if she speaks from that. Why did we decide to do a session on this, from less bad to more good? Every day, though, I deal with sustainable development strategies in businesses. That's something that is of concern to people, and particularly those who work on CSR, is that in businesses, this particular topic, it doesn't really has a roaring public thrilled by the actual topic. So we're on the slippery slope. When you go somewhere and you say, well, not here, of course, but more generally speaking, if you go into a room and there are like marketers, commercial officials, when they do CSR, you're going to talk about CSR, the reaction is this. Why? Because sustainable development is something that aims at reducing the negative impact of businesses. I'll come back to that. It's seen as the new business as usual. That's it. We've been managing this for a while. There's a sustainable development official who's in charge of that. In other words, nobody else needs to deal with that. We're doing it internally. It would appear that it sort of attracts a certain number of regulations, not very thrilling regulations, but no real proposals. And what is of interest to people are new offerings. It's considered as a way of actually dealing with things that are disconnected to business. The human resources department will sort of deal with the all the various social aspects. And basically, it seems to be disconnected from people who work really, truly. It's a bit of a caricature, but it's seen as the gadfly, even by people who are really interested in the matter. So it's also seen as a limited approach that is compliance-based. The fact that you have to apply regulations, ISO rules with all the figures that you can think of. So here again, with a few exceptions, that's not really exactly a thrilling subject in business. It's also seen as a topic that's not very attractive, really, for consumers. So if it doesn't speak to them, at least that's what the marketers say, well, they don't really care. Say, okay, very good, but my customers are more interested in other things. That's the first problem we have with the current approach. The second problem we have is that such approaches are not enough to change the world. I'll give you 2 figures. to highlight this, the global consumption of natural resources on the planet. When you hear businesses say, no, it's fine, because we work quite a lot on that particular topic for about 20 years or so after the Rio summit, and we made tremendous progress. That's why they say, well, don't worry, we're dealing with that. So why? Because per unit, we're reduced by 30% the way we use natural resources. It means that you need 1/3 of resources less to produce 1 unit of anything. If you think about mobile phones, maybe you remember at the beginning, they used to weigh more than 500 grams, now it's less than 100. So literally, there are 5 times less resources compared to what they used to be like 5 years ago, so that, or 30 years ago. That's why the businesses tend to say, we've done it all. And of course, less natural resources means that there's more money. So for the NGOs, that glass is half empty. In fact, they say during this period, we've increased by 30%, 50% of our consumption of global resources. But whilst businesses were trying to reduce the per unit natural resources quantity, the explosion of world population, economic growth, meant there were more people who've got that now than 30 years ago. So, globally speaking, you need more natural resources to produce mobile phones. That explains why businesses say, okay, well, we do all sorts of CSR, it's part of our DNA, and why the NGOs say, okay, fair enough, but that doesn't solve the problem. So we're going to have to do more. In order to do more, we said, okay, this idea of sustainable development is you have to have an incremental increase, you have to try and see over time to bring the data down to zero in a reactive sort of approach. And everybody works, try to reduce, cut down, suppress. And there was this idea that businesses had that when we'd be at zero, we could try and have positive contributions. The problem is that when we go from that line, basically, there are always new campaigns on controversial elements, so you have to keep doing things back to square one. So the other issue is that with the approach that aims at reducing negative impacts, you don't take the staff, the teams with you. Apart from the sustainable development official, everybody agrees that people would rather buy from sustainable companies. So what we say from it's not a good idea to sort of scale that sort of effort. You have to deal with things head-on simultaneously, whilst working to maximize the positive impacts, maybe on the same topics or others. The advantage of this is that it's easier to get people sort of siding with you, whereas on the reducing negative impacts is difficult, but on the positive aspects, then you can be more radical. We were on the less bad, so very often we overreact to NGOs' campaign, but for more good, nobody forces you to do things better. But very often it's proactive. For example, the idea is to ensure that there is brand differentiation. It's a bit like positive psychology, sustainable development from 80 years or so. People who worked in psychology only worked on problems, on issues, depression, why people depressed, why they psychopaths. And one day, psychologist Martin Seligman said, but why don't we've been working on what's not right, but the absence of problem is not necessarily positive. Why don't we work on what makes people happy? If we start to work on that, maybe we're more likely to help people achieve happiness. It's as if in a couple you say we're more happy because we beat each other up less, for example. That's a bit similar. Of course, we'll have to carry on doing less bad. Less bad is needed. Why? Because if you see in the food sector with the digital networks, the business practices basically are available to everyone. The businesses explain what they do, particularly in faraway countries where the production is actually taking place. Others do it. SourceMap on the MIT project, that is a cooperative project. There are people in the rest of the world who will tell you where is what manufactured, particularly if the brand doesn't give the actual information, it will be provided by somebody else. So it's important for brands to actually have their voice heard. Open Food Facts, that's another user-generated content that's based on the labels that people copy online. And some found excuses not to apply the food labeling that was recommended. It was online on Open Food Fact, whether businesses like it or not. So with the controversial raw materials, etc. So we'll have to carry on doing that, but we'll have to speed things up to try and solve problems, which is the idea of maximizing positive contributions. And we can see companies, particularly big ones, that actually going head-on in that direction with a commitment that we didn't see before. That's the whole point of the roundtable. Marks and Spencer's engaged Plan A. They were about to go bankrupt, so they didn't have much choice. But what did they do in 2010? Said, okay, we'll give ourselves till 2020 so that all our products have a sustainable development label, organic, sort of fair trade, etc. So we're no longer in an approach that we're going to have to diminish or decrease negative impact. Clearly, if you invert the tendency, then basically you'll increase your profit. So in some Starbucks, for example, don't realize when you go to a Starbucks coffee shop, you don't realize that it's a fair trade coffee. So it's just now sort of a tendency. If you look at Philips, it's actually done. I'm not saying that they're perfect. I'm just highlighting tendencies. I reduce a bit my pollution, a bit my waste every year, and I have a vaguely organic line. But we're trying to see how we're going to transform companies. Philips is the same thing in 2012. 30% of our turnover will actually be carbon neutral. And then we can see the green sales in their sales, and you can say they're at 55%. And you can see the evolution of the brand value. It's good for the planet, it's also good for business, for Philips. So Philips launched a special program in June last. They said that in 2020 we'll have 70% of our turnover that will come from our positive contribution to two objectives, i.e. sustainable development. So the idea is basically to make sure that the United Nations Sustainable Development Objective is actually internalized by businesses. It rests on two elements: the raison d'être, its mission, the brand purpose, and the fact of translating this sort of purpose, which would be empty if it only states so, in an offering. If I say what my mission is to change the world, this has to be trickled down specifically in 100% of the products that I sell. And 3 businesses out of 5 are B-Corps, and that highlights the raison d'être and the innovation that is produced, that is a characteristic of B-Corps, of the B-Corps questionnaire. So, of course, this means performances. How does Unilever communicate in its latest sustainable development project? They've got a sustainable living plan, that's the name of their project, and we've seen what the brands were, and they've worked their purpose and their products. How do I translate this into products so that it doesn't remain greenwashing? They said those brands in the group have higher growth in 2015 than they had in 2014. They account for half of the growth of the group, and they actually increased 30% faster than the rest of the brands. There are a certain number of brands also in all sectors that are actually following this example. So 2 examples now, quickly. This more good contribution is underway. You can see Volvo. It took 2 commitments this year. First of all, in 2020, nobody will be seriously injured as a result of a Volvo car. That's also in line with their history, but it means that no one in the car, and outside the car, presumably. So in June last, they said by 2019, 100% of the Volvo cars will be electric or hybrid. There are still people still wondering, oh, is it a good idea to choose electric because of batteries, etc. So it's interesting to say how some people are taking, or some companies rather, are really strongly committed. Same thing for Patagonia, another market, sports outwear. And we can see this, the idea of common good means that people actually have a strong stance on important issues. They said, of course, they wanted to do more ecological sort of items that would last forever. And in the Fashion Week in 2011, they said, don't buy this jacket because our main problem, the main environmental element, environmentally detrimental effect in fashion is that people keep changing fast fashion with very high obsolescence. So they said, okay, we'll be consistent with ourselves. We'll have a partnership with eBay. If you want to buy a Patagonia item on eBay, you can do it by a second-hand item of clothing with a partner of eBay. And they also said, okay, in order to make things last, then people should be able to repair those items of clothing. So you have a repairing site which tells you what you can do in order to mend things. And there's a hyper-ambitious campaign which says repair is a radical act. It's almost a political action through which Patagonia suggests repairs in its own shops and also repair kits. And what is interesting, when Patagonia kicked that off, they said, okay, they're shooting themselves in the foot. They're selling items of clothing. They're going to tell people not to buy them anymore. Patagonia sales have gone up by 45%. So this honesty, this ability to really tackle head-on environmental problem means that they've taken more shares of the market, actually. So in the conclusion, the 5 keys for this approach, and we'll see it with example, it's an ambitious brand purpose, which indicate with CSR embedded, the choice editing. How can I have 100% responsible products? The idea of having proactive stance on reactive issues. How do I get consumer involvement, or how do I get them to engage? And people are really cottoning on to that. And finally, strong transparency and strong accountability. Before I give the floor, just two quotes from Churchill. An optimist is someone who sees the opportunity in each difficulty. A pessimist does the opposite. Do you remember the idea of the glass that's half full or half empty? They're looking at the same thing, but they look at things differently. With all the research on psychology, we also know that this is a choice to be an optimist or a pessimist. It's not a gene or anything that's implied. Second quotation, and we'll see that in the example, better take change by the hand before it takes you by the throat. So I think this idea of how businesses are going to contribute to common good is a way of tackling the problems head-on and anticipating an unavoidable development for businesses and economic development. So here are the names of our various speakers. Sonia Ziveri, who's going to start, from Davines. Henry Holm, who's created a business in Denmark, who's in charge of design, furniture design. He'll tell us a very different market. Chris Van Asch, who is co-founder and CEO of African Drive SA in Belgium. He'll tell us how we apply this to transport in a country where it doesn't exist. And Maria, she'll put tampons on the table, and I think that's really great, and that's a stance.
The light may go down a little bit now that we have a video, or not? Yeah, we can. Okay, thanks. I don't see it. Thank you, Elisabeth. And we want to start with the video.
What is beauty? A concept? An abstraction? An emotion? Sometimes an instant that feels like an eternity. A secluded corner inside of us, roused by the wind, or the smell of the sea, or by a song coming from afar. No matter how or when it comes to us, it's always a captivating moment when our heartbeat matches the beat of the universe, and we discover that we can impact the world by spreading our affection for the landscape that we've carried within us since we were born. And so there's no need for fences. We need only respect and awareness, and the kind of reverence reserved for the wisest and eldest of us, because we are the keepers. is beauty? Beauty is our responsibility.
Thank you. First question, who knows Davines? Okay. I hope you will have the chance to know us a little bit better once we have finished. We are a cosmetic company founded in 1983 by Bollati family. And we are present at the international level in 97 countries all over the world. We are totally dedicated to professional market for skincare with the brand Comfort Zone and hair care with brand Davines. We have our headquarters in Parma, Italy, where we research, develop, and produce products that we sell, as I said, all over the world. We have 6 subsidiaries in New York, London, Paris, Deventer, the Netherlands, Mexico City, and recently Hong Kong. And we consider that our growth represents a positive situation in our history. Recently, during last years, our growth has been double-digit, and we hit in 2016 a sales turnover of 113 million euro, with the help, the support of more than 500 people around the world, I mean staff members. We consider that the strong international approach, the excellence of Made in Italy, the care for people and for the planet are our core values that allow us, and we hope it will be like that, to continuous prosperous longevity of our company. We want to be the most admired company in the beauty industry, not necessarily the biggest one. And we go through our roots and our concepts in design, driven by a scientific approach, by ethics and sustainability. We aim to inspire professionals in their everyday professional life through our concept, through our products, through our services, and we hope this may give unique experiences to their clients. Carta Etica, or the Ethic Chart, is a document we have issued in 2005. All the company was contributing to it. And it means that for more than 3 days, any member of the staff of Davines was working together with a philosopher on issues like subjects like ethics, like philosophy, asking ourselves what's good and not only what's beauty. And we understood that beauty and good are usually together, like ancient Greek were saying kalos kai agathos, so good and beauty are linked together, are the same thing. And Carta Etica is a document that has been a milestone in our history because it gave us the possibility to identify which are the core values that we want to put into practice in our everyday work. And these values are the same that are driving ourselves with our clients and our suppliers and any kind of relationship we have with any stakeholder. From the root of Carta Etica, we have defined, we have issued our Sustainable Beauty Manifesto. Sustainable Beauty Manifesto is a document where our values around beauty and sustainability are in. And this document is leading any kind of relationship with our clients, and is, of course, also at the basis of any choices we do into our products and our projects. And the Sustainable Beauty Manifesto has then generated tons and tens of projects within the company, with several teamwork working together in order to generate projects around sustainability and around beauty. Of course, becoming then a BCorp was a natural way for us to progress in this path. And what we felt in a certain way is that we were so committed to expressing sustainability through several projects, in expressing our passion around sustainability, but we felt the lack of measure ourselves. And BCorp certification was the answer. So we were in position to quantify our positive impact and the good thing we were doing. Were not a self-reference for ourselves, but was something that we were in position to share with other people. And so why we became a BCorp? This is the answer. It was a natural progress of what is in our DNA. Even if since several years we have been working on several projects around sustainability, it took an 18 months working period in order to get the certification. We put together a team that you can see in the picture, composed by directors in Davines leading the whole process. And we were then in position to drive the whole company with an integrated approach, top-down and bottom-up. That was very important in terms of teamwork in our organization. Then, creating practices and policies helped us to get the BCorp certification with a remarkable score of 99 points. I don't know how much you know about the score of BCorp, but it's something interesting because you have an entrance level of 80 points. That was our target at the beginning, and we hit this target and we went much beyond. Consider that this was the certification of a production company like Davines is, and also of all our 7 companies around the world. And if you consider in terms of score, a standard business is around 50 points. So you can imagine how much a BCorp has to do in order to make a difference. Of course, then, in order to get the certification, we have been focusing on several projects that have driven the BCorp certification. One of these was our sustainability report. We issued the first one last year, on previous year 2015, and it was an operation of commitment, of focusing on transparency that we want to share with all our stakeholders. Sustainable life cycle assessment is an analysis that we did on more of 50% of our products. And it's an analysis around the life cycle assessment, of the product, together with the 4 principles of sustainability identified by the natural step. So we were in position to identify all the action we have to take, and we still have to take, in order to have a lower impact, of course, because we are talking about materials, and, of course, magnify our positive impact. Sorry, this is the life cycle. The reduction and rationalization of waste generation is another key point. We have almost doubled the percentage of waste destinated from incineration to recycling. This is, of course, at the basis of the circular concept, a concept that is very important for us, together with other aspects that are related to our packaging. Davines has been compensating since several years the packaging of their products with an increasing percentage during the years. The compensation is through a project of either forest maintenance or reforestation, and we want to increase more and more the percentage of the compensation in our products. The packaging. Of course, the design of packaging is fundamental in terms of, as I was saying, circular economy. We are trying to reduce more and more the packaging we use, and we have been choosing material less impacting. For this year, we have a target of having plastic packaging derived at least for a 30% either from plastic, recycled plastic or bio-based plastic. And this is a very important revolution for us because it took a lot, because I want to share an issue. I mean, everybody's talking about circular economy, but it's really difficult to apply circular economy in a production process. So I hope these kind of meetings will help us also to find ways to be very and totally circular. Supply chain has, of course, to be involved totally. We have involved our supplier in an awareness raising campaign about sustainability, social sustainability and environmental sustainability. We have challenged them in several projects. We want them to be totally committed in our journey. Several of our suppliers have been challenged to become a BCorp. Few of them are following and are measuring themselves, and few of them are becoming BCorp as well. Several people in Davines are volunteering for NGO, and up to 4 days in a year are paid by Davines. Of course, all of us are incentivized to do it, and we are very active in social causes. The improvement, the chance, the effort to be more and more impacting in terms of positive impact on environment and social activities is a never-ending process. And we are challenging ourselves every year with specific targets we want to achieve in the area that are for us more strategical or, let's say, critical. We have committed ourselves in a transparent way for the issues that you see here on our sustainability report, which is available in our website, both Davines website and Comfort Zone website, and is possible to download it there. I Sustain Beauty, you saw it in the video, is a call to action for all the professionals among our clients. They are challenged to propose a project that has a positive impact in terms of either of social, sustainability, environmental sustainability or artistic sustainability. We are now at the third session. As you may see from the numbers here, we have doubled the number of projects from the first edition to the second edition, where we are now in the middle of the third edition that will finish next year. And several projects were very interesting. The most interesting one are those that Davines is sponsoring. One of these is, for me, very interesting, the one that won last year. It's Mondays at Racine. It's a salon based, an hairdresser salon based in New York that on the closure day, Mondays, they supply, they give the beauty care treatments for people affected by cancer. And several projects are really very interesting and focus on great tasks. Davines, we consider ourselves as a family. We feel we are a family. We were so small a few years ago. Now we are 500, but we have a very family spirit. And now it's time to have an home, because we have been growing so much that we need to have a village that will host us. The village will be open next spring. It's in Parma. And it's designed by an architect that is caring about sustainability. There will be a garden with strong attention to lifestyle of the people living in Davines, and also an attention to the biodiversity subject. We will have a greenhouse in the center of the village where there will be a restaurant, there will be all the activities running up, putting all the people together and connected. Of course, it's important in the project of our company, of our new building, all the subject around sustainability, and we are trying to be excellent for any subject, from the use of energy until the promotion of well-being, that are important for all our environment. Last but not least, I would like to say that we are a small company. We are competing with big giants all over the world. And in a very humble way, we think we may make a difference. And this difference, as Gandhi was saying, is the change that we want to see in the world is what we can do, no? So I want to be the change I want to see in the world. So I hope we may be inspiring for some of you and be inspired on the other side from many of you. Thank you very much.
Alors, merci Sonia. Sonia a parlé d'économie circulaire.
Thank you, Sonia. You talked about circular economy. Over to Enrique Orm. You're co-founder of a company called Vela from Denmark, and you produce furniture.
I have no clue what you just said. I don't speak French. Maybe I should say I don't speak French yet. So thank you, Sonia. That was a really cool presentation. There's one thing that BCorp inspires, that is to do business among themselves. And I just saw that you're opening a new showroom. Now it happens that I'm in furniture, and I am a BCorp. So here is my name and address and telephone number. And you can, just call me, and I'll be there. And now I'll tell you what kind of furniture we are doing, and I'll show some of these furniture. So thank you, Elizabeth, for having me, and my good colleagues here, and thank you everybody here to show up. If you have any questions, any comments, please bring them forward. It's always more fun to feel a little bit of vibe from the audience to understand what's on your minds. Yesterday, I was leaving my home. That is also the headquarters of Wheelers Furniture. We are a very new organization. We introduced our brand in June this year. So we are 3 employees and some temps. So really small, but we also have an ambition and a vision, and we actually just from the humble ambition is to show our fellow colleagues in furniture that there is a better way. That's one of the key starting points for me and my wife, who is my closest colleague. Before I left, or before we went to bed yesterday morning, I actually left Copenhagen 4 o'clock this morning, so it's been a long journey. I missed the train from the airport, but anyway, I made it. It's Maria, my wife, told me that H&M, you know, the clothing company, they're actually working with circular economy in some sort. Circular economy is the key issue for us at Wheelers, and I will come back to that. And I can point you in a direction on how circular economy works for us, also in plastic, as you mentioned. But she was mentioning H&M. H&M is actually collecting old clothing from consumers and putting it into display in these mega stores that they have, which is all really good. But yesterday there was a shitstorm on the way for these guys. There was a journalist, a Danish journalist, who realized that these guys in Denmark alone burn 25,000 kilos. That's 25 tons of new, never used clothing. Just throw it out. So there are some really strong and big corporations doing really good, but some also have, greenwashing in their vocabulary. So, in 2017, June, just a couple of months ago, Maria and I launched our furniture company. I have been in furniture since 1998 and have actually never left that since. And when we talk about furniture in our family, our business, we actually concluded early on that the world doesn't really need any more designed furniture. You know, there's enough furniture. We have fine furniture here. I'm sure that everybody could find a piece of furniture which they would like. So from that perspective, it doesn't really make any sense to make yet a new design furniture company. But we also decided or came across that there is a need to do it in a better way. And that is the whole foundation for which we built our company. That is the value set and the decision makers which we have within the company. We do not have strong discussions on if we should choose one material over the other, because what we do is actually working with circular economy. And that is maybe easier for us to progress our sustainable approach. Having said that, I also brought my BCorp score, and yours is higher than mine. So that's really cool. But I'm looking at a new score in a couple of months, and I believe that we will improve. That's the goal. That's the aim, as yours, Sonja. So yeah, we are a Danish furniture company. We work with Danish design furniture, and in Denmark, it's world famous to work with furniture. Here's an example of a chair that we call alternative, which is a dining chair. If you have any questions about the furniture or sustainability, anything like that, just let me know. So we pride ourselves about the fact that we have done what the world actually talks about. I think Elizabeth also mentioned that there's a lot of talk about circular economy and how that is brought into its existence. When I have our whole circularity in a slide later on. Here's another chair, a lounge chair we call New Best Friend. This chair is made out of scrapped and reused foam, and an old veneer press, which is found at a supplier, is used to make the shape of the chair, and the steel has a high recycled content. When I look at furniture, and when I look at some of the companies or designers who has made furniture and called the furniture sustainable, I came across, Coca-Cola bottles for legs and, wood from the ocean being the tabletop. And that was claimed to be sustainable furniture, which is true. But to me, to us, it doesn't really last. It's a gimmick more than it's a design piece of furniture. So we look at this as hedonistic sustainability. So we will make beautiful design furniture that are sustainable. So again, it's not about doing good or trying to show, or it's about doing good, but don't show and pay the price of, having old plastic bags being the upholstery of your furniture. And there is actually a better way of doing true, sustainable, and circular furniture and having them be cool and good looking. A good example is the daybed we have here. There's a textile on top, and there's recycled foam in the middle, and the bottom of this daybed is made out of old textile. So the textile is taken back after use or during a production process, and then it's made to hard, solid textile boards, and we use that in the bottom here. So we actually have a daybed, a piece of furniture which is completely new, but actually has a really high content of recycled materials. So it brings us to the next slide here. All our materials that we have in our furniture is recyclable. So when we choose our suppliers, there are no suppliers in our supply chain who will not accept back the item that they provide for us. And then we choose recycled materials when we produce our furniture, to the extent that we can still say that we produce new and cool looking furniture. Are there any questions? No. No. Not yet. Here is an example of a coffee table with that's a steel base, and the tabletop is made out of recycled textile. So it's actually very close to being everything that we have brought in with textile. We take back, and we get the supplier to press these tabletops, so that now you can start to see that there is something circular. And the circular economy is displayed here. When we design a piece of furniture, we begin with the end in mind. We realize that at the end of the life cycle of this piece of furniture, whatever it might be, we will have it back. So that's in the development. It's important for us that you can take things apart. It's important to us that the materials are clean and you can actually handle them when they come back. And it's important in the next step, you see on the right-hand side here, the factory with the DK sign. The DK means that we produce locally. We have local Danish suppliers. Often they are second-generation family-owned, which is quite nice. But we also make sure that the materials that they give or provide or manufacture for us can come back to this supplier when the end of life cycle of all our furniture is coming. So that when we choose material, it tends to also say that we need to choose materials that are of a certain and decent quality. So no supplier in that network will be a supplier to us if they cannot accept back the items that they make. And we have just found a supplier who can actually accept back leather, and that has been a thing that we have been working with for a year or more, discussing with different suppliers. So it demands for some sustainable thinking here. Then we have the key stakeholders to us. These are architects, and the architects are actually quite interested in sustainability. They understand our value proposition, and even though we are a young company, only been in business for 4 months, they invite us in to tell us our story. And 4 weeks ago, or that's 6 weeks ago now, I came across a customer who actually has it's a chain of restaurants in Copenhagen, and they are owned by a furniture manufacturer. So it's a group, but the biggest majority of their group and where they make their money and what they are known for is actually furniture. And I went in to visit this restaurant. They claimed that they would build a sustainable sushi restaurant. So I called them and said, hey, if you want to make a sustainable restaurant, I got sustainable furniture. And then they said, yeah, that might be, but we are owned internally by furniture, so forget it. And then I insisted on 5 minutes in the parking lot, saying, hey guys, come on, I'll just spend 5 minutes of your time in the parking lot. And then they said, okay, we'll spend 5 minutes on you. I brought my chair, the alternative chair. I let it sit in the parking lot. And I went in and I said, hey, Henrik, where's your furniture? It's in the parking lot. Come on, come and check it out. So we went down to the parking lot. And they looked at it and said, well, that's really cool, that thing. Yeah, and it's sustainable. And you're building a sustainable restaurant. So should we make some business? To just make the story short, they ended up buying 150 chairs from us, a direct competitor, due to the sole fact that we had this sustainability as our driver for our value proposition. So indeed, there are evidence that what we can do with sustainability is good. As said by Lisbeth, we are also a B Corporation. When I tell people why we are B Corporation, I don't start in the sense that we are in it to save the world. We are, but it's I've been in furniture since 1998, as said. And when I came across the B Corporation, I was actually sent to school, and I studied leadership and sustainability. And I think that the fact that I ended up in studying sustainability was a mistake. It was a misunderstanding between me and the guy owning the business I was working for. He said, Henrik, you need to go and study an MBA, and it has to be sustainable. Okay, I'll look into that. And then I came across an education that had leadership and sustainability as main topics. But that was not what he meant. But anyway, I completed the course, and in that course, I came across B Corporation. And B Corporation made a spot in time for me. It has always been in my career desire, if you will, to start a company, a brand on my own. But working in furniture, in an industry that is so red ocean, I'll come back to that in a little while. It's it's difficult. But when I came across B Corporation, it actually did the thing for me. Instead of just looking at one single product, it looks holistically at companies and say, how are you actually conducting your business? It also allows for performance, and it allows for performance in profits. And before I started this journey, there was a conflict in my mind saying, okay, if you want to do good and try to change the world with one hand, can you then also be profitable or greedy even with the other hand? And B Corporation actually set this out pretty simple, They talk about profit, planet, people, and they also say if you're not profitable, you're not in business, you cannot change anything. So actually one of these aha and spots in time for me on my path. Also, the B Corps provide proof. They do assessments. They have these scores, which Sonja also talked about. And then they have, Sonja, the togetherness is actually we do business together, right? We buy stuff from each other. Remember that? So there's a sense of belonging here in the B Corp, and also in the journey of becoming a B Corp. There's a lot of information, a lot of support to you as a business, and at that point, establishing a business that you can actually take advantage from. So why sustainability? I just told you that I studied sustainability by mistake. I came into furniture not knowing anything about furniture, actually, back in 1998. I'll spare you that. But you know, why should we do it? It's the simple one first line here, because we can, should, and must. We can talk a lot about all the things that's going on. I think it's pretty evident that we need to do something different. But the second line here is maybe the most important one. For me, investing all my time and personal savings is to sustainability allows wheelers, me, to compete and to differentiate in a market that is actually a red ocean. As I said earlier, there is a lot of design furniture out there, and we have been sitting on a rock for 10 million years. It's not furniture we need, but we need another way, and we believe that we have a way of doing this different. And then there's, it's never bad for a brand to be best at something. And this is, again, reflecting a bit on the score. You can actually show how well you're doing. Here is our score, Sonja. So 97. I think you have 99, right? 5 minutes? 10? 15? The other way? All right. 2. So, okay, reflecting on business, I have come across a multi-startup guy who talks about what is it that makes this a success. Lisbeth also talked a little bit about it. Where are we in this transition phase, and how fast are we moving? Are the customers willing to pay? Is there really business for me and for Danish design furniture to reinvent themselves with this? And these 5 are the 5 pillars of being successful. And should I ask the question, which one is the one that is the most important one? Anyone? Here we go. Timing. Timing is, from experience, the most important thing. So you can say the reason why we're here, the reason why we have these big movements and we have so much focus on sustainability and circular economy, that drives right into our ambition about doing good. So timing is definitely there. Next thing is that you have team and execution. That's beyond me. Then we are above 75%. Here's just a slide on the timing. Timing meaning do customers really want this? And the one that says 73 is that 73% customers of the world would switch brand. And you know, if I should survive, I need customers to switch brand. So I believe that there is a business here for wheelers. I think this is the last slide here. So just to position the sustainability and sweet spot for wheelers is just building the strengths on circular economy and being B Corp and trying to do the business and conduct the business as sustainable as you possibly can will differentiate us from the rest of our good competitors who are all talking about design and quality. There's no one in furniture who is not mentioning design and quality as the main drivers. And we are among the very, very few who actually adds on sustainability. So that's it. Thank you. Thank you for listening.
Sans transition, on va changer de zone
So without further ado, we're now changing region of the world. We're going to give the floor to Chris, African tribe, who sort of operates elsewhere.
We're going to change continents, we're going to change colors, we're going to change culture. As the slides are being brought to the screen, African Drive has been founded in 2013 as a financial holding company to enable our subsidiaries in Africa to develop new opportunities and to create business and family life in Africa. We have one subsidiary for the time being, and that subsidiary is in Benin. As you can see in our graphics, we apply the local culture. We do not import our fantastic, nice, easygoing graphics that we know in the Western world. We use themselves. They paint on the wall themselves with brushes and with paint and so on and so forth. In order to bring us in the mood, I'm going to show you a happier world and a better future. Isn't that what we all want? Now, before moving into how we did this, I want to explain why we're doing this and why we chose Benin. I'll start with the second question, why Benin? This has to do with my family. Actually, a cousin of mine, together with her fiancé, worked in a local hospital in Benin. On one of their trips going home for some holiday and talking to the family, they got involved in an airplane crash. In 1981, both of them passed away, together with all other passengers in the plane. About a year later, 1982, now 35 years ago, both families decided to create a foundation to continue developing their dream. And their dream was easy, helping people. Very social, with their skills, helping people. The foundation is still functioning today. They are active in the medical sector, in education, in agriculture, and there is also a small orphanage, all of that in the center of Benin. I was asked to lead that foundation a while ago, which I did for about 6 years. And while doing so, I discovered many, many things. One, with donations and with charity, you can, in certain areas, really do nice work. But on the other hand, there are other areas that require different things than just donations and charity. They require investments so that you can plan ahead, that you can move ahead, and that you can move forward with the social system in Africa. Why we are doing this is basically because instead of helping people, we want to enable progress in the broadest sense possible. And while I was there one evening at table with a group of Belgians, we discussed on how we could do things differently in order to serve more demand and to help the population to move forward themselves. Because the key for success is that they get involved themselves and not just being told what to do, but discover themselves how to do things and how to get to results. So we sat around the table and we said, okay, instead of thinking non-profit, like all the NGOs are doing, with charity money from donations, let's create a profit organization. We will finance the startup, but as we go on, the wheel should start turning and everything should be self-sufficient. It should become an ecosystem. And then we were looking, besides the areas in which we are active, medical, education, agriculture, and orphanage, let's try to find something else. So we were looking at one of the engines that makes the economy move forward, and that engine is transportation. Now, transportation in Africa, as you've seen in many movies and other visual communication, transportation is not that well developed. It has to do with the road structure, but it also has to do that nobody's really investing. The governments are not investing, private investment is not existing, so we said there is an opportunity there to create a company, to enable that people become entrepreneurs, to enable social progress, and to create something that moves the economy forward. So we brought together capital, first with 3 founders, myself and 2 colleagues, and we extended that to about 30 other organizations, a university, business angels, and private people, and we brought together capital in order to build an infrastructure and to start going. Now that infrastructure looks more or less like what you see on this slide. We decided not to import already used buses. We decided to give them brand new buses. Give them the comfort, give them material that runs, that is not standing still, so that they can actually develop the business instead of just maintaining old buses. So we invested first in 6, then in 12, and today we have altogether 27 buses. Our business plan is saying that next year we're going to double the capacity in the amount of seats that we have available today. We are transporting today about 700 people all across the country. They pay for their ticket as if they were paying for what they call over there a taxi brousse. Taxi brousse is a very old, in most of the cases, Peugeot 505, in which they dump 12 to 15 people with their luggage and maybe also some animals. This is the reality today. So we said, let's give them first comfort. Every passenger has his own seat. You don't have to sit on the lap of somebody else. Secondly, we start and we leave our starting points on time, which is a different way of doing things in Africa. We arrive on time, meaning that you can organize your day and become a real entrepreneur if you want to. And we do this all with security due to our new buses. So we're building infrastructure to make an impact so that people can experience that things can be done differently, not only for the same price, but also in a profitable way. And 50% of our profit every year we are spending on social projects. Instead of doing that with donations coming from Europe or from America, we do this with the ticket price that the local people have paid themselves. So they are themselves funding now the social projects, which is a major turnaround in the thinking process. And this because of investing instead of charity. We are not just creating benefits for our employees and for our customers, but we look at things in such a way that we open up our ecosystem. We go from point to point. People have to go from our point to their destinations. We have agreements with the local taxi motos so that they work with us. They wear our T-shirts. They promote our customers. And we even pay for the transport from their home to our bus stops. So we create an additional business, not only in transport, but in all of our bus stops, we are providing drinks and we are providing food. We are inviting the mothers from the families to bring what they prepared at home, sell it at our bus stops, and create another business. We don't need income for that. Let them create their income and their business. Now, we have local operations that, always wrong button, that are built on discipline. Today we are employing 120 people. About 4 years ago, these people had no work. Now we are providing them long-term contracts, not just for tomorrow, not just for next year, but we have a vision that is a long-term vision. And we are demanding discipline. 8 o'clock in the morning is 8 o'clock in the morning. It's not 9:30, as they used to do, or not come that day at all because of a problem at home. There is discipline needed. If we ask our passengers to pay for the tickets and to service them in the way that they are in the way we need to answer their needs, that means that we need to be organized in the same way. Build on trust. Don't stand behind their shoulders. Look what they do minute after minute after minute. These people are smart. They're really smart. You just have to help them to overcome some hurdles. But once they've done that, they move ahead, they see the light, and they reach the destination. So trust is a very important thing. In order to give them trust, you also have to tell them, but we're going to control you. It's not so that now we give you everything and you can waste it or you can use it properly. No, you need to control it. And we have built in open control mechanisms. They know what we control and how we control. We have, for instance, installed a Dropbox. Everything they do is documented on the computer. Everybody has a computer. It's all documented. It all goes on a Dropbox as a server. We see it immediately here. I can see on my smartphone here how many passengers we have been transporting today. I can see what income we had. I can see how much fuel we have been using. I can see whether the preventive maintenance has been done on that bus, yes or no. On top of that, we have regularly visits from Europe that have eyes open and see whether what is documented on the Dropbox is also actually true in the reality. We've learned, and I think it's very important that we need to facilitate, enable them to do things. And we have a staff of 120 people with an average age of 26 years. They are young. And the reason why we did so is that they don't bring themselves a background that is already spoiled by the history. No, they come with a fresh mind from university, from school. We coach them, we teach them, we train them, and they're all going in the same direction. Our managing director is self-employed. He's not an employee. He's earning money on results. He makes money. He makes good money. He makes more than a director of a hospital. He makes more than somebody that works in the administration because he takes the risk and he takes all actions necessary to come to the results. So make them responsible and give them the motivation to move forward. Invest in staff and in infrastructure. Infrastructure is easy. That's something we do normally because without infrastructure you can't really function. But investing in staff is different. We are 120 now. We have recently an HR director that is controlling the careers of those 120 people, showing them the path forward. We have evaluations every 6 months, and because of these evaluations, we know how to focus, where to focus for each individual. And that helps the motivation, and that helps our drive forward. All of this needs to be done because of customer satisfaction. The local people have to trust us and have to come, and by mouth to mouth, we move forward and we get more and more passengers. Today we have 85% occupation rate, 7 days a week, 85%. Which is extremely high, meaning that most of the time our buses are full. But we're not taking one passenger extra than our bus has been configured for. So if the bus says 24, we take 24. because of security. We're also insured. If something happens, everybody is insured. That is a major difference to what is happening over there. Customers are happy, and they are your best promoters. And it goes from village to village with the tam-tam. And everybody now wants to drive with Baobab Express, or even wants to come to Baobab Express to work. The problem we have today, that due to their own success, it's being visible, and people want to work for us, want to work with us. We have put the level on such a way that we need the baccalaureate plus 3 years. So we are expecting, except for the mechanics and for the drivers, we require the baccalaureate plus 3 years of university studies. And then they say, okay, we want to do an internship here, a stage. What am I going to earn during the stage? We said, okay, you can come, but there is nothing to earn during a stage. You get an opportunity to prove that you are useful to us. And then we will prove that together we can move forward. By reacting in such a way, about 50% of the people that want to have an internship in our company already go away because they're not going to be compensated financially. It means that the other 50% find the motivation and the time to prove that they are good. It's a completely different mindset. And from these 50%, we hire the better ones and we move forward. We have now, in the 4 years that we are busy, we have now a national network. We started up in the north because these are the destinations that have the least availability of transportation. So we started there to show people that everything is possible. And then slowly but surely we are now national and we cover all the major destinations in Benin. You see our people there, average age 26, they're proud. They're proud to work. They're proud to be there. They're proud to provide a normal life for their families. 120 people means about 1,200 mouths we are feeding in the evening. Children going to school, money available to go to the hospital if needed. Move forward. And they're all doing it themselves, which is a major difference. They are very proud of what they've done themselves. Of course, we have been investing, and of course, we've taken the risk. But with that investment, they also take the risk that they have to prove that it can be successful. We're doing this from our vision, but they have to do it. It's not us. It's a major difference. On the right-hand side, on top, is our managing director. And everybody, all the males are called Monsieur Baobab, and all the ladies, about 30%, are being called Madame Baobab. They identify themselves with the job. Every person has 1 day off in the week because we run a 7-day service. The 7th day, when they normally have what they call repos, they are there because they want to be available if needed. They want to make sure that we are moving on and that they are moving on. So it's a family that has the results. What are the factors that create a success, or how are they actually do this? First of all, our shareholders is a group of 30 people, and we call it They Dare to Care. We are not interested in profit of our investment. We are interested in the result of our investment, in moving forward in a country that needs to be moved forward. We have an active board, very, very complementary. Marketing skills, financial skills, very practical skills, organizational, logistics, and so on and so forth. The concept of coaching. We have about 5 people, early retired, that go once or twice a year in their own time for 1 week or for 2 weeks to our facilities in Benin. They listen, they analyze, they debate, and they open the discussion on how together changing things and moving forward. So the coaching is a very interesting concept for the simple reason that the difference in age is creating respect from their point of view. They like to see gray hairs coming in. They like to see knowledge coming in. And we share that knowledge with a lot of fun and a lot of result afterwards. Stimulate and give trust, as I said. Allow flexibility. The African population, African people are extremely creative. Sometimes creative just for the fun of it, but they will always find solutions. Maybe not always the most efficient in a practical way or in a cost-efficient way, but they always find solutions. So you have to stimulate and allow that flexibility and creativity. Accept the fact that they're different, something we learned. Do not impose what we know and how we do things in Europe or in the States. They are different, but they have an enormous opportunity in front of them. It is the last and the most important continent that has a huge, huge, huge opportunity. So we believe that enabling the local culture is helping a lot. Do not dictate, accept. You have to be very patient. 30% of the time when I'm there, I'm repeating things I already said 10 times. And the 10th time, they catch it. And then they discover it, and suddenly it's their idea. That's fine. But they understood, and they move forward. Local prosperity. Instead of charity, instead of donations, we believe that when they are involved themselves, when they take everything in their own hands, when the result is there, we can actually come to local prosperity. The wheel is turning, and they make themselves responsible for their own future instead of being depending on what we do here. And then, of course, the peer-to-peer influence. A few pictures here of the impact of coaching. It's with them. Yeah, it's with them. Because of that, we are building together the success. And when we are successful, it's time to celebrate. And you should celebrate. You have to go out with them, dance, eat, drink, because it's their success, and we have to show respect for their success and give a party. Not just take the money and run, but spend it there, make them feel happy so that they can move on. Our message is, our slogan is, bouger et gagner ensemble, c'est bon. And now we can say, after almost 4 years, ça bouge, et ce sont eux qui vont gagner. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Nice to be here. I just wanted to start with a question and ask you if any of you can remember what you used to want to be when you were a small child. Can you remember? I remember wanting to be an Olympic gymnast when I was about 6 years old, but my grandmother broke that dream by telling me that I would need to stop growing, and at the age of 6, 7, that seemed highly unlikely. And then later I had a more odd dream, and I wanted to become a librarian. And I believe this was inspired by a book that my mother used to read to me and that I read to my daughter nowadays today. And the book is called Miss Rumphius, and it's about a little girl, Miss Rumphius. It starts when she's a little girl, named Alice. And Alice looks up to her grandfather, and she asks him, she says, I too, when I grow up, I want to travel to faraway places. And I too, when I grow up, I want to go and live by the sea. And her grandfather responds to her and says, that's all very well, my little Alice, but there's one more thing that you must do in your life. And little Alice looks up and says, but what's that? And the grandfather responds and says, you must do something to make the world more beautiful. And so the book goes on to talk about how Alice accomplishes these 3 things and becomes Miss Rumphius. And one of her stints on one page, she's a librarian, so this made an important impact on my life. But it also made an even more important impact because as long as I can remember, I've always felt that I'm here with a purpose to make a positive change to the world. And today I want to share a couple of personal stories about how I've been looking for my purpose and how that has brought me to what I thought was a very unlikely place namely that of business, which I, when I was younger, viewed as just the business of profit making only, and I never thought I'd be a business owner like I am today, and never in the unlikely field of tampons. We'll get to that in a minute. So after my master's in international development, I quite quickly started to work for Médecins Sans Frontières, for Doctors Without Borders, and they are an NGO with a very clear mission to save lives and alleviate suffering, and I felt I had found my purpose. So I quickly mapped out my career and knew exactly which steps I needed to take to have a successful career at Doctors Without Borders. And I was really excited when I got my first field mission. And I remember arriving in the middle of nowhere in South Sudan on this miniature plane, and we landed on this field, which was the airstrip, with at the end there was a crashed miniature plane. And I got out, and I felt overwhelmed as all the locals and my teammates, they came to greet me. But I also really remembering needing to pee. So as soon as one of my teammates showed me my mud hut that I'd stay in for the next year, I put down my bag, and they also showed me the way to the outhouse. So I made my way to the outhouse. I remember opening the door, and I saw that they had placed this old toilet bowl on top of the hole. And I opened the lid, and you all know, or from those of you who do camping, you all know that there's this outhouse stench that comes to greet you. But this time there were also thousands of mosquitoes and flies that came out of this toilet bowl to greet me. And South Sudan is, where I was at least, was a desert, no trees. So there was no other option than to go in this toilet bowl. Somehow I managed, and I got out, closed the door, I just remember thinking, oh my God, I've made a terrible mistake. And the mistake wasn't the outhouse or the other like uncomfortable things that you come across in field life. I realized that I'm the kind of person who generally functions better in a more stable home environment close to my family and friends. And I soon realized that I'm the type of person who doesn't have the strongest immune system. So so many months into my assignment, continuously got sick and did like 9 rounds of antibiotics in 2 months' time. So I had to accept that this was not my life's purpose. I was not going to have a career with Doctors Without Borders. So I finished my time in the field, I returned home, and I took a couple of months off to recover. And I soon found myself not only recovering from my time in the field, but also from an unfortunate breakup with my boyfriend at the time. And so this left me approaching 30, no clear purpose in my life, no direction for my career, and I was single. So, what are you going to do when you're in that type of situation? I did the most obvious thing there was for me to do. I became a yoga teacher. Now, I have no idea if where you're from is like what Amsterdam's like. But in Amsterdam, there are about 100 yoga teachers graduating every week. And at every street corner, there's a new yoga studio popping up. But think about it. I think it is for a reason. And what are we looking for? And I, myself, was looking for a relationship with myself, some space for my spiritual life that I had lost in just the overwhelming, I think, busyness of everyday life. And on my yoga mat, I found time for self-reflection and introspection that I so needed. And teaching yoga, I found time where I could translate my personal struggles into something that meant something to other people. And I realized that it's not my pain, it's not my sorrow, it's not my struggles. They're yours too. We all share them. It's just the details that gets us mixed up and kind of fixed in our personal struggles. So I actually became quite successful with this yoga business. And I could pay my rent, and I had found, yet again, purpose within my career. But today I don't teach yoga anymore, really, once in a while for the team. Because life got me mixed up yet again. So I was almost turning 30. And in the Netherlands, when you're turning 30, all women have to go for a health checkup. And during my health checkup, I found out that I was developing cervical cancer. And so for the next 6 months, I spent my time going in and out of hospitals, but also really looking for other ways to continue to support my own health. And in my search, I met a doctor, and she advised me to start using organic cotton tampons, pads, and panty liners to prevent further irritation. So organic cotton tampons and pads. Have you ever questioned what tampons, pads, or panty liners are made from? A few yeses, but very little reaction. Either you guys are like, don't want to talk about this subject, or never thought about it, but doesn't matter. I had never questioned what my products were made from. Yet I had been using these products for over 15 years, near or inside one of the most absorbent parts of my body. So I was a little skeptical as well as curious. So I started to do some research. I took a look at the packaging, but this didn't help me. They don't list any of the ingredients on general packaging. So I picked up the phone and I called the 4 main companies who dominate the worldwide feminine hygiene market. And they let me know that my products aren't made from pure cotton, but are generally made from a blend with synthetic materials. It may contain rayon or plastics. I wanted to know more. Digging deeper, I found out that these products may contain perfume or super absorbent pearls, and that if the product contains cotton, but it's not organic, then cotton is one of the most sprayed upon crops in the world. To top it all off, there's no EU regulation that this industry needs to follow with respect to the labeling of its packaging, nor to the specific ingredients that go into these intimate products, such intimate products. Now, while research is thin and inconclusive about the health benefits, I will never know, or may never know, whether my own personal story would be any different if I'd known this all before. But what I do know is this is a story worth sharing. Sharing to create awareness, sharing to create a demand, and sharing to make a lasting change in the current feminine hygiene industry. We want producers to be transparent about the ingredients that go into their tampons, pads, and panty liners. We want that every woman can know what her choice of product is made from. And we want to make the 100% organic cotton tampon, pad, and panty liner available on every shelf so you can just buy it at your local corner store. And this is why Wendeline Habley and I, that's us, one of my long-term friends, why we set up our business, Yoni. And we aim to not only make the organic cotton tampons, pads, and panty liners that are also on the table there, to make them available to all women, but we also aim to talk about this subject since nobody else was doing so. And one of the funnest things we do, if any of you are on Instagram, is our own Instagram feed. Check us out. And we get kind of creative in this communication, and I think that's important with such a taboo subject. So it was 4 years ago that I set off my job with Wendeline together, and we started our company. And I'm really proud to say that after 2.5 years of sales, we've actually made this change, or the first step to this change, in the Netherlands where we're based. So in the Netherlands, you can go into the mainstream supermarket, Albert Heijn, or the drugstore Ethos, and you'll find an organic cotton option, Yoni's products, on the shelves. And this is almost the first time that this has ever happened in the whole of Europe. Our next step, obviously, is to go beyond borders, because this is a subject as well as a product that most women, which is relevant to most women, independent of race, culture, or social status. So Today, I hope you walk away from my presentation with two main messages. The first is super simple. Join us on our mission to protect vaginas globally. Share this story with the women, colleagues, your family, and friends. And the second is maybe, I actually think it's quite simple, but a little bit more difficult in its execution. It's my understanding that life is not about what happens to you, but it's really about how we choose to deal with its challenges. And it's my understanding that at the moment we're facing a challenge to stop compartmentalizing our social, spiritual, and professional lives. And what I feel is needed is to integrate our social and spiritual lives into our professional lives where we are at our most powerful. And by doing so, we will no longer have honest, self-aware people being in the business of profit-making only, but we will be moving towards people using business as a force to do good. Thank you very much.
Merci Maria. Bon, j'ai récupéré le micro tout à l'heure.
Thank you very much. I didn't have any mic before, but I've got one now. But it was a good thing anyway, because I don't know how I would have done the transition between the two. So it was a blessing not to have a mic. Anyway, we're super late, as you could see. We have a few minutes to take questions or comments. Everything that you can think about after these testimonies. Whatever you want, basically. There's any question for any one of the four speakers? And if not, if we have given that we have no time, I'll just keep the mic. I'll try and see if someone has a question. Is somebody standing? Nope, not at all.
Okay.
All right, well, in this case, I'll keep the mic and...
Parce que ça ira plus vite pour eux. To the four of you, very quickly, whether your commitment to common good, let's say, not only to be less bad, and again, to your point, Maria, we see that progressively maybe mainstream brands of tampon will go into less bad, but obviously with organic cotton, etc., you're beyond this. How do you leverage that to make a difference for your brand? Like on a market where you have very big competitors, all of you for cosmetics, vous peut-être un peu moins, je sais pas, la concurrence.
You maybe a bit less in Benin for transport.
How do you leverage that from a commercial standpoint, from a business standpoint? Very quickly, I don't know whether the mics are working, so I'll give you.
So for us, we've made a very clear choice to have a retail strategy. So many people, business people mostly, ask us why we're not doing an online business. We have an online shop, but our focus is on retail to get onto the shelves where the synthetic products are.
Because that's where tampons are bought anyway, right?
And that's where you're actually going to be challenging these brands to change. And I feel if you're not there and you're not getting the shelf space away from them, they're not really going to be all that interested. So for us, that's been a very clear choice in strategy.
And is that, how do you convey your message? Is that like this, is it easy to because you have more sophisticated, complex things to say than just...
Well, I think focus is really important. So at the moment, we focus on the transparency and we try to lead by example and we try to speak from ourselves and from our positive standpoint and really sharing the story that most women have really never questioned their use of these products for. So just like me, they never thought about it. So already getting the story out and having then the choice on the shelf gives them an opportunity to make a choice and to demand for this change.
Okay, thank you very much. What about Venus? How do you leverage this? Who are your main competitors and how do you differentiate your brand using all the commitments?
I mean, our main competitors are the cosmetic giants. We have here in France the biggest, and so I don't want to say the name, but of course...
L'Oréal?
No?
No.
Of course, yes, it is. And the leverage is, of course, the quality of our products. I mean, we research products we have a laboratory in Parma, and it's a point of excellence for us. We are positioned at a high-end level in the market, and the quality of what we give to our clients, to the people that use our products is fundamental. Secondary, I would say, at the same level, are the value that we want to transmit through the product, because the product is not an object itself, but it represents all the people that work in order to have this product alive, that is in our hands, is on our body, and so all the care we put in manufacturing it, in concept, the products, and the value that are at the basis of our company are really important, and we saw it's a very strong leverage for improvement of our business.
Okay, Chris?
Yep. Well, in the few years that we are there, we are being recognized as the leader. Of course, we want to continue leveraging on that, but what is more important to us is that the customers and the nation, the country, are leveraging on the fact that doing things differently enables them to move forward in a profitable way. So the leveraging for us is much more broad than for a pure commercial company. We want to enable the development by giving aid in a different way, by creating jobs, by creating entrepreneurs, by creating opportunity, and by developing services that enable the population to move on. That's the leverage we are looking for.
Thank you. Henrik? Well, obviously, as you said, in Scandinavia, you have a lot of big furniture manufacturers, some of which are kind of committed to sustainability, as you said. How do you intend to, because your brand is new, but how do you intend to leverage your commitment to common good to make a difference, to differentiate yourself also from the competition?
But differentiation is maybe the key word, because we use sustainability and circular economy to differentiate. If you recall my last slide, it was showing the sweet spot and trying to differentiate ourselves from design and quality, and saying that the stone that we put in our shoe to be noticed is actually sustainability and circular economy. So one thing that we have just launched a project which we will collect plastic from the ocean and bring that into our furniture and into our circularity. So that's also one thing, is that it's really nice to be part of a solution like that, to be part of solving a problem for which is plastic in the ocean, and then also to be able to bring it into our world and our circular thinking is really cool, and that's a clear sign of differentiation and how we leverage.
Okay, thank you very much. Est-ce qu'il y a une question?
Is there one question, maybe? Sir, I don't know if there's a mic coming to you. Look, we have speakers who are great.
From B-Lab Global. I want to thank you for the stories. I think they're amazing stories. My question really is, in a way, you've been going around for years and trying to talk about impact and how business can be a force for positive change in society. So, in a way, you're kind of pioneered a kind of work of promoting a different paradigm of business, which is, of course, the theme of the economy here, of this conference. So, are we not near the point where people will say, not why should business be like this, but why not business should be like this? I think that, in a way, we should have a lot of confidence in what we are doing, because this is the future that people want. We may not get 100%, but this is the future that people want. So my question is, first of all, thanking you, and secondly, saying, how do you feel about, where are we on this trajectory, on this journey, to actually reaching the tipping point?
So tipping point from less bad to more good, and from why to why not?
That's a really huge question and difficult to answer. We're at the tipping point. I don't think we are. And when I address a question like this, which is very relevant, I see the glass half empty. And it's I think that if we come to a situation where we don't have the resources, where we as a seeing as a whole, as a in the world, we will start killing each other. We will, we will be so low on Maslow. It has to do with survival, and I'm sorry to say this is. I think we could end up there unless we get laws and regulations and all these things to be incorporated. And that's not very. It doesn't sell any tickets to have a view like that. But it's. I see it's a very difficult journey, and I'm happy to see so many people here and all the, the press and communication and everything going on. But there is still a ton of work to be done, if you ask me.
Thank you, girls.
If I look at my little bubble, yeah, we've already gotten to the tipping point. But if I look broader and with like the retailers that we work with and within our industry, then we're far from it. And I think it also differs between what you define as doing good. So is it just kind of a little bit of greenwashing here or there, or is it actually making a fundamental change within the business? And for us, being at the end of our BCorp certification process, it's difficult. It really challenges you in every aspect of doing business. And for us as a small company, really looking forward as the way to do business, then I think it's relatively easy. But for these enormous companies that have been built upon, with a really profit driven, I think it's going to be much more difficult to get to that point.
Okay.
Being very honest, I think we are very far from where we should be, of course, but on the other side, I think that BCorp's model is the only way we may think for the future in terms of business, in between for profit and no profit. So any company should, in a certain way, compensate the negative impact that is producing with a stronger positive impact, like BCorps are doing or trying to do.
Thank you. Chris, final word before we close this session.
Yeah, well, the problem with the African continent is that everybody looks at the risks and not at the opportunity.
This is not limited to the African continent.
Yeah, but going back to your slide of Winston Churchill, this is the real life over there. To give you an example, I'm connected, I'm actually researching an investment of 2.5 million euros for next year. There is not even one bank that wants to listen to us. We are finding the financing with our shareholders and in crowdfunding. Crowdfunding in an audience like this one, people that believe, that want to share, that see that the opportunity is there, forget about the risk at the condition that it's well developed and that you follow it. If that's the case, I think there is a huge opportunity.
Merci beaucoup.
Okay, thank you very much to all four speakers. We'll let you go because there's other sessions afterwards. Thank you very much. Thank you to the four speakers. Let me remind you, given that we've talked a lot about BCorp in this session, because 3 out of 4 were certified BCorp plus it's the fourth one. And there's also in this room, I believe it is Timin, I can't remember. There's also a BCorp session at 5 p.m. Right. In the meantime, you can go elsewhere. Thank you very much.